Womp. Welcome back. I nearly threw up in my mouth. Welcome back to the sexiest, most sensual podcast where I constantly talk about fluids.
The things you miss not being in this room. There's odours and just...
That's not fair. No, I don't smell yet.
It does not smell. Can confirm.
It's your turn.
Oh, it is shit, yeah.
Last time we were talking about Invader Zim and how good it is, and Jonah Vasquez genuinely did make a really good show. But obviously, children being children, and I suppose not even just children being children, people being people, will compartmentalize it. So the big takeaway from Invader Zim for a lot of people was that Gurr is really funny, and the reason that he's funny is because he says lots of random stupid things. And thus Hot Topic was born. So what was the original fucking point?
Why did we get to Zim? I just sort of the
children's humour. The
yeah.
randomness is funny. And unfortunately, every single person will probably look back on that stage of their life and go, Jesus Christ. I thought I was so funny and I was not. It's because we were talking about how I'm not funny.
Right.
But that I did write that comedy play when I was 13. And
that's the one.
Thinking back on it, probably actually aspects of it were reasonably well written. There were some actual jokes in it.
Yeah.
But
there was also ABBA doing a Pokemon fight.
Yes. There were many elements in it that at the time were funny just because they were non sequitur. And non sequitur is a very divisive aspect of comedy. We didn't do fucking level ups. We're doing it now. Fuck you.
Get ready for some hot stat action.
Oh, we've got some health enhancement elf stones. Non sequitur is divisive, I think. Lots of people think that non sequitur is bullshit comedy, and that it's not funny because it doesn't require any thought or imagination.
How are you defining non sequitur? Look at that.
Yeah, this is why Hadhod is...
His dexterity is decent, though.
Fumbling like a fucking ass plow. I don't know what that means. It's because you haven't leveled him up. Non sequitur as in a joke where the punchline of the joke is something completely random and unrelated.
Right.
I'm trying to think of a... There's this one like famous non sequitur joke that's basically to the tune of why did the something cross the road fish?
Right.
That's non sequitur.
Okay.
And sometimes it's funny, like Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Yeah.
A lot of that comedy is non sequitur.
Yeah.
But they do non sequitur well because they build it around actual jokes. They also write proper jokes, and then every so often there'll be a little non sequitur peppered in, and the surprise of that being scattered in with a regular joke, like a real joke, is what makes them funny.
It's the whole now for something completely different.
Yeah. And so a lot of it is non sequitur, but it is well formed and well placed non sequitur that has a legitimate function in their writing to make a contrast between standard jokes. And I mean, even with Monty Python, their standard jokes are somewhat non sequitur because the whole Monty Python troupe were incredibly imaginative and innovative comedians who, regardless of whether you think they're funny now, were very groundbreaking comedy when they came out.
Yeah.
That's undeniable. Almost any comedian who is big today more than likely will tell you that they were heavily influenced by Monty Python.
Yeah. I mean, what else was there at the time? Sort of Morecambe and Wise.
Yeah. At the time...
Two Ronnies.
Yeah, a lot of comedy was fairly... I mean, Two Ronnies is imaginative comedy. Morecambe and Wise is imaginative comedy, but Monty Python is completely different.
Yeah.
Now for something completely different is a completely accurate description of their comedy because it's so out there and different. And a lot of comedy of that time was, I suppose, as with all art, attempting to do something different. Like they saw what comedy was and what performance was and decided that's pretty good. Let's try and see if we can do something different. Like the Goodies, who are a comedy troupe, Graham Garden, Bill Oddie, and Tippett Taylor. They were around at the same time. They were all, I think they were all in Cambridge Footlights together.
Yeah.
Them and the Pythons. The Goodies basically did sort of the same thing, but they were far less revered for it.
Yeah.
Because they were perceived as being like a kids program.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they didn't have as much risque adult humor. They were sort of branded as a kids program, which is completely unfair.
Yeah, I wouldn't class it as that at all.
No. If you've never heard of or seen the Goodies, look it up. If you like Monty Python, you'll probably like the Goodies. It's really good. It's genuinely really funny. If you've ever seen Bill Oddie's fucking tit watching, that's what Bill Oddie used to do. Bill Oddie used to be a comedian. I'm going to swap him out. I'm bored of him. You can play for a bit.
Thank you.
I'll just be Barathor in the background. Have you ever seen Not the 9 O'Clock News?
Yes.
It doesn't hold up.
No. I've not seen it in a long time.
No, I tried to watch some of it once, but I think invariably, because it's all topical humour... Oh, here we go. That's the dude with the mask. That's the one that can stun.
Oh, okay.
So now that we have stand fast, it is imperative that I always do stand fast in any battles with those fucking mask dudes, because they will probably use stun strike and stun someone, but I don't want that. There it is. Stun strike. Well, it missed, but if it had hit, I would have been immune to it, because it's a motherfucker. Yeah, Not the 9 O'Clock News doesn't really hold up because it's all topical humour.
Yeah.
And so, because we're not living in the 1980s, it doesn't really make sense anymore. Which is why South Park isn't funny anymore. Old episodes of South Park beyond season, 3 aren't funny now.
Nah, that's not entirely true. The topical ones. But it's not all topical.
Isn't it?
It's not.
The first couple of seasons were not topical at all. As far as I remember, they were...
They were just pastiche on small town America.
Yeah, and they're really funny.
Yeah, but they're not all, pop culture and current politics. There's a lot of just coming up with a concept and taking it to the nth degree.
Okay. Okay, that's... Okay, yeah, that's an issue with me being ill-informed about South Park. I haven't watched South Park for ages, because a fair amount of South Park is very topical humour of here's something that's going on in the media and we're going to pastiche it, which is fine. I don't like it, personally. I'm not into topical humour just because I think it doesn't have any longevity. Which it doesn't. No. Just factually, I'm pretty sure that is accurate.
If you don't understand it because you don't know the context, then...
And even if you do, a lot of topical humour basically just boils down to, you know that thing in the news? Ha! It's yeah.
So do you enjoy stuff like... they're all called Have I Got News For You and that other one?
I do.
What's it called?
Mock the Week.
That's the one.
The bits I enjoy the most of Mock the Week are the scenes we'd like to see.
Yeah.
And the stand-up bits.
Because it's just whose line is it anyway.
Yeah, when they do the the opening couple of rounds of Mock the Week, where it's can you fill in the blanks of this news story? I mean, they make it funny because the jokes they make aren't topical.
Yeah.
They make silly jokes around what could potentially be a silly headline, and then eventually they get to the real line, just okay, fine, yeah. But, because Mock the Week does sort of mock current humour, but it doesn't, none of them ever actually make topical humour jokes, really.
Yeah.
I suppose that's probably the same, in my opinion, with, Have I Got News For You? It's all making jokes around things that are currently happening, but not really jokes that specifically rely on knowledge of those things.
See, I think How I Got News For You does that a bit more.
Yes,
there's a lot of jabs at specific people.
Yeah. And that's fine. And on the week that it's released, it's probably really funny if you've been keeping up with the news. But if you haven't, then it's not. And I suppose one could very easily claim that all comedy really boils down to an audience's knowledge of specific things. If you're making a joke about something, it presumes that the audience knows the same thing that you know about the thing you're making a joke about.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. That's a very, very specific fucking paradigm that I've just described, and I'm trying to think of an example. I guess, like, old episodes of The Simpsons. Like, if an old episode of The Simpsons makes a joke... Oh no, here's a really good example.
Go.
There's one joke in The Simpsons where Grandpa is talking about... his Bart gets spanked by George H. Bush.
Yes.
And he says, big deal, when I was young, we got spanked by presidents all the time. And he says, I got spanked by Grover Cleveland on 2 non-consecutive occasions. And the joke is that Grover Cleveland is the only American president who served 2 terms non-consecutively. And so that's a joke that requires a specific piece of knowledge in order for that to be funny. But I feel like because that's not a topical joke, that's a historical joke, it's almost making a topical joke about something that has already been accepted into somewhat common knowledge.
Yeah, at least in America, common knowledge.
And I suppose that's really the only difference between topical humour and regular humour, is that it relies on references that are more ubiquitous.
Yeah, I mean, because even, like, you can boil it down to just the most basic of things, or like a lot of the whose line is it anyway jokes rely on them pretending to be something else.
Yeah.
And it can be obvious stuff like pretending to be a type of animal.
Yeah.
And it's only funny because you know what that animal is.
Yeah. And I suppose that's where a lot of comedies fall down, is because their situation is not relatable enough. Like, I would imagine that Frasier is not
I don't know why.
hugely popular just because it's a comedy sort of about
upper class
the
Americans.
upper class. Although Frasier is popular because mostly it's poking fun of the upper class and how snooty and snobby they are. But like a comedian like Larry the Cable Guy, whose entire bit is Bible Belt Americana, is very, very funny to that specific subset of people, and is probably not very funny to anyone else, and is probably the subject of mockery. Definitely the subject of mockery
for sure.
Other people, because it's not relevant to people who are not... Actually, no, there's some stuff down here.
So you're not going to explain the rest of this area?
Well, because we need to come back here later. This is where the plot eventually progresses to. But we don't need to be here yet, but I'm going to go there because I think there's a nice long sword. Fuck, use the perfect mode. Once again, for the 500th time, I've lost completely the track of any point that I may have been trying to make. Fuck. Humour is difficult. Good topical humour is difficult. Some topical humour is not difficult because it's just like, here's the thing in the news, haha. You can very easily make a topical humour joke and be like, if something bad is happening, like if you're just sitting around in the pub and someone does something stupid and you'd be like, whoa, that's even stupider than blah person in the news, and like, ha ha ha. That's a funny joke because I know that person who's in the news right now for being stupid. But it's probably not a joke that you would want to put in like a sitcom, because that joke probably won't be funny like a week from now. Yeah. Which is why... Oh, that was it. That's why not the 9 o'clock news. Yeah, I fucking know. Why not the 9 o'clock news doesn't hold up particularly well, because it's exceedingly specific topical humour about, I think, mostly politics of the day. For fuck's sake. Maybe... Yeah. Swap them for Dingle. Because I tried to watch an episode of Not the 9 o'clock news, and I got like 10 minutes in. I was like, literally don't understand any joke that they've said, because they're just referencing people and policies and things that I have absolutely no concept of. There's all politicians that I haven't heard of that might be dead.
Yeah.
Or at very least not in government anymore. A political party that is not the same as it is now, that isn't in power. Well, it probably is, because I think at the 80s it was still the Conservative Party. Yeah, it would have been, because it was Thatcherism.
Thatcher.
It's just not accessible to me at all. Comedies are hard, so instead of doing that, what we've been doing, we're just going to sit and dissect the entire concept of comedy for 50 fucking minutes.
Good.
Jesus Christ. I hope some of these views are at least interesting, even if you don't agree with them. Because otherwise, Jesus Christ, we've been rambling on since like 10 minutes into the recording. We're now 52 minutes in.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So it's been 42 minutes of us gassing on about comedy and how children aren't funny. Well, children can be funny, but they're not generally not funny for the right reason, yeah. And unfortunately, that will probably always be true. When you're a teenager, you think that when you do a funny thing, you think it's funny. Probably adults won't think it's funny.
Yeah.
Just because there's a generational gap between you. That's just fact.
That's just life, really.
Yeah, and in particular, if you work with children, like I used to, children will do stuff and say stuff that they think is funny, and it's just not funny to you. And generally, it moves away from being funny and becomes annoying. Things that children think are funny, you will find annoying. And the older you get, the more annoying you'll find it, unfortunately, and you will become everything you ever hated. For definite, everyone will. Sorry. Next time I'm gonna drop another bleak bombshell. Next time, we'll talk about something different, I swear.